welcome to the Sweetly Grim Morticia. Morticia here to jolt your brain with knowledge by looking at some macabre and horror-filled topics from varying views. Many words come to mind when one thinks of murder. To many like myself, it is difficult to fully comprehend why some individuals seem to cross that well-defined line most people have between right and wrong. One word that never comes to my mind and most others is charming. So let's take a glimpse into two infamously deadly charmers who use theirs for evil. The part that controls emotional and rational reasoning seems to have broken or been damaged within individuals who commit serial murder or murders in general. The words that come to my mind are usually tragic, terrible, awful, horrible, grotesque, depressing, and most of all, the main question that pops in my mind is simply why. Like most, I want a logical explanation as to why that person committed the murder, and in some instances how some of the most diabolical and demented serial murderers can have fans coming in droves to their trials and defense, even with evidence piling up. Fan bases proposing marriage, engaging in sick victim-predator role-playing, and turning murderers into martyrs somewhere in their obviously twisted minds. Suffice it to say, a lot of emotions run through you even if you are just spectating. However, the ones most affected are those who are family members and friends of victims, and the victims themselves. Here's where it gets a little dense, my apologies. Murder's legal definition is the killing of another human being under conditions specifically covered in law. First-degree murder is done with premeditation while committing another crime. Second-degree murder is murder by intent without deliberation. Based on recent FBI crime statistics, there are approximately 15,000 murders annually. So that means there are no more than 150 victims of serial murder in the U.S. in any given year. FBI estimates show that there are between 25 and 50 serial killers operating throughout the U.S. at any given time. A serial killer is defined as the person who murders 3 or more people in the period of over a month, with a cooling down period between murders which can range from weeks to months and in some cases almost a year. For a serial killer, the murders must be separate events, which are most often driven by a psychological thrill or pleasure, whether it be a drive to have power over someone or a psychological issue. In most cases, they either denied treatment or were forced into treatment and eventually went back to their murdering ways. I often find it stigmatizing and polarizing when mental illness is brought up attached to a murder. It can often in a way vilify or make people uneasy around perfectly stable and reasonable individuals, but I will touch on that further in another video. One commonality throughout most serial killers' profiles is a difficult childhood or past, not negating the despicable and heinous acts they've committed, but it can help you start to unravel the twisted and damaged minds of a killer. Serial killers often lack empathy, rarely feeling remorse for their heinous crimes. Most often are egocentric, feel invincible or untraceable. These characteristics classify several serial killers as psychopaths. Serial killers use a technique known as the mask of sanity to hide the monster inside and appear as normal as possible. Blending in is what they strive for. In some cases, you wonder if they thought of themselves as some smooth actor in a play of their own writing. The most notable example employing the charming facade was well known and admired by many women after his capture, serial killer Ted Bundy. He started his life being the shameful secret of his unwed mother, living in Philadelphia. He was said to have shown an interest in the macabre early in life, around 3 years old. He became fascinated by knives by age 3. He enjoyed peeking in windows throughout his youth and committed petty thefts. He wanted few things from life: money, status, and most of all, power. He wanted to be in control and have all the power in situations, which is why many killers rape or assault the victims before the murder occurs or during. The sexual assault is often not entirely sexually driven. In most of the cases, it's a move for power, leaving the victim sadly forever changed. He was known to feign injuries to receive compassion and a way in with his victims. Ted Bundy is classified as an organized serial killer. He committed premeditated murders, choosing his victims in advance, often stalking his victims for several weeks, prior to finally satiating his sick thirst for blood by finishing what he started. He was also diagnosed as a sexually sadistic predator. He seemed to get some sexual pleasure from his assaults and murders. He committed an estimated 30 murders from 1974 to 1978, before his eventual capture. Serial killers such as Ted Bundy are known to be organized and psychologically motivated to commit murder. Bundy was betrayed early in life by his mother when he found out who he thought was his sister was his mother. His first girlfriend from college left him because she thought he had no future. He also envied her lavish lifestyle. He was introduced to pornography at a very young age, an age seemingly younger than most. He became addicted to hardcore violent pornography, shortly leading to his interest in snuff pornography. He was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder. He was classified as a high factor 1 psychopath, which means he was a highly functioning and intelligent predator. He found it easy to slip himself into his victim's presence by utilizing his charming yet predatory demeanor, taking the saying, "killing someone with kindness," into literal territory. A factor 1 psychopath is characterized by egocentrism, pathological lying, conning, manipulative behaviors, lack of remorse, lack of empathy, and a failure to accept responsibility for their crimes or horrid actions. People with this disorder live in the present, for the moment. Whatever urge or desire one has is meant to be fulfilled, because they are not to be held to social standards or laws. According to Dr. Al Carlisle, a psychologist who evaluated Bundy after his first arrest, stated, his compass or measurements of what was morally right and wrong changed to whatever his desire was at that moment. He was eventually arrested for an incident involving having tools to commit burglary. He went to trial and had a big fan base. People would crowd the courthouse chanting for his innocence. He was eventually given the death penalty, which he fought. He got his nickname of Charming Ted Bundy because of the crowds of women attending his trial. He had literal fangirls who wanted to marry him and were infatuated with him while imprisoned. I don't know about you, but that's one thing I will never understand, are serial killer groupies. He was executed by electric chair January 2nd, 1989, in Rayford Prison in Florida. Many films are based on him, such as Bundy, An American Icon, Anvil Presents The Stranger Beside Me, Ted Bundy, and The Deliberate Stranger. Another charming serial murderer is the infamous Richard Ramirez, aka the Night Stalker from El Paso, Texas. Born in El Paso, he experienced a difficult childhood. He hung out with his cousin Mike, who was a Vietnam veteran, who shared his literal war stories, sparing no gory detail for his younger cousin. He even shared a picture or two mementos he kept from his time fighting. They also had discussions about satanic worship and smoked marijuana. What started his time with the criminal justice system were petty crimes to fuel his drug habit, which hindered and strained his relationship with his Catholic parents. His cousin Mike, whom he was very close to, later murdered his wife while Richard was present. He moved to San Francisco after a few arrests, later moving to Los Angeles, finding it easy to slip into a cocaine addiction and a penchant for weapons. His killing spree started with an elderly woman in 1984. After she found him in her home, he sexually assaulted her, and after all was said and done, 25 victims were left in his wake. His spree ended in 1985 thanks to police and FBI cooperating with the media and releasing his pictures. He was found in a fumbled carjacking, resulting in him being beaten and apprehended by civilians before the police arrived. While in prison, he had a female and male fans writing him letters and visiting. One fan named Doreen sent him 75 letters, and they later married October of 1996. They eventually separated. He went to trial 3 years later, and during the jury selection process, a juror was found murdered. It was rumored that Ramirez was the one who orchestrated the whole thing. In late 1989, he received 19 death sentences. His lovely and eloquent response was, "No big deal. Death comes with the territory. I'll see you in Disneyland." He died September 7, 2013, in Marin General Hospital due to lymphoma. He was later linked to several more vicious crimes, most recently in 2009, when his DNA matched the murder and rape of a 9-year-old girl. He has numerous films about him, mostly named Night Stalker. So there are two wicked charmers. Thanks for staying around. I would like to say I have immense sympathy for the loved ones involved with these two men. whom lost their family members at these men's hands. It is something unimaginable and unfathomable and simply tragic. Hope everyone learned a little something, and remember, stay aware, stay safe. Good night, my lovelies.